Hello, we're getting ready to take the hood off as part of the preparation for pulling the engine and transmission. So here we have the driver's side sans suspension. So all we did to take it out was we undid the connection here between the axle bearing and the strut, as well as the brake line. And then we just twisted this around until the half shaft starts to pop out, and then with a little bit of convincing from a pry bar, it popped out. We don't intend to reuse the half shafts or anything, but they just need to be out so we can get out the motor. We can disconnect anything other than the actual strut and the brake line. Steering and the bottom are both in place. So here we have the wheel side of the half shafts. We just pulled them out of the car, but we still need the spline and the thread on the end so that we can actually hold everything into the wheel bearing. So we got to get out all the CV joint parts so that we can then take off this top part and leave just what we need. So all we need to do so is just spin this these internal parts around with various pry bars and such until one of the ball bearings actually pops out. That other one is now stuck between two of the. That's not good. I think that other one's now between. Oh, no, there we go. Alright, I'll hold the carrier in place and you can pop that out. There we go. So now all the ball bearings are out. You just rotate this so that these slots line up with the sort of fingers that hold it in place. And with a little wiggle, it pops right out. Yeah, same process for removing the inner from the outer. Just rotate it till it lines up with there. Once these fingers line up with the slots, you just rotate that out. And there we have it. And we dump that straight in the parts washer. So here we are. We've got the lift in the shop. We've disconnected everything from the engine and we're about to pull it out. Here it is with no more engine. There's tons of space for batteries up here, so we're going to have to do some mocking up and see if we can get them all to fit, or if we're going to have to put some in the back or not. And there's the motor just sitting there for now. Hopefully we'll have someone pick it up soon. We're also going to have to plan out where we want to put stuff like air conditioning and power brake pump and all that, or power steering pump. So we just got this set of super cheap eBay coilovers. This whole box was like 250 bucks. It's almost alarmingly cheap. We've installed the front ones on the car. See up there? They don't have quite as much travel as the stock ones, but they do allow our nice new wheels to fit. So here's the ones that came with the car. The wheels would hit up against here since they have these super huge diameter springs. These are small enough that we can fit them on the car with decent clearance. So let's let it down on the ground, see how it sits. That didn't change anything hardly.
That's my point. These aren't going to sink down the way the other ones did. This will be rock solid.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully, when we get all the weight in here, it'll be just about right.
Yeah.
No, hopefully we have to lower it.
We're gonna have to go wide angle for this. So the rear coilover has finally arrived. It's just a single adjustable setup. The springs are elsewhere in a box. So this is roughly what that looks like when it's mounted up. This wooden block isn't supposed to be there, so it's kind of not exactly where it's going to sit. But we need that wooden block to secure our pipe-based solution for when I set the car back on the ground. So it took some time to deliberate over which batteries to buy. And one thing I found out was that the battery market actually changes pretty rapidly. So even videos from just last year were still pretty different from what kind of pricing and stuff I could find. Also partly because I'm on the East Coast and not the West Coast, and things are pretty different. So the absolute cheapest I could find, some Tesla batteries, which are one of the obvious choices since we're using a Tesla motor, worked out to be quite a lot total cost, and I don't even know if they'd be willing to ship them to me from that particular vendor. So I kept looking around. A lot of people use these volt packs. You get them off eBay. However, those also, I don't know if I can actually get them for that. Some of them were for that price, but whether or not I get them and how much they cost to ship is a whole nother thing. And the actual capacity and range is not awesome. Eventually, though, I did find these packs from the Chevy Bolt with a B, and I found a good deal on them, and they have plenty of range for what I want to do. Really excellent watt hours per dollar. I don't know exactly what kind of maximum amperage they take, but I've seen forum posts where people use them for like actually building some electric race cars, so I figure for mine it should be all right. So they do give a little more voltage than most other configurations do, but that, from what I could find, all the parts of my system are okay with that. This 300 watt hour per mile figure is more or less approximated based on what a Tesla gets and what other people who do retrofits get. I do get to borrow some of the Tesla efficiency since I have their whole drive unit. What I don't have is their aerodynamics, so if it ends up being a little bit higher than this, I wouldn't be surprised, but it should be somewhere in that ballpark. Now, it's also possible that any of these batteries is not going to quite meet its full kilowatt hour specification since I'm buying them secondhand. The particular bolt packs that I got, they say they're
kind of like a new old stock, but old is only like a year at most, probably. So, and they've been sitting at storage charge that whole time, so they should be in pretty good shape. The volt packs, one problem is that even though they're pretty cheap per capacity, you don't really know how long they've been sitting in the junkyard or what state they're stored in, so whether or not they would hit the full capacity is a little questionable. I couldn't really find a figure on maximum amps for those either, but people say that they're generally pretty power dense as far as actually putting out lots and lots of amps from not a lot of capacity.
Here's the batteries. They all came in a crate a few days ago. They all look pretty much intact. So there's a post right there, and there's another one on the other end. We've also got these connectors here, which are the balance monitoring connectors. So each of the 10 cells in the module has wires going to that connector, and that's how we make sure that each cell is at the proper voltage, because sometimes they get out of sync, so you need a unit to keep that synced up so that one doesn't get more full than the others or more empty. We're thinking right now that we'll be able to get about 6 of these up front, and then we'll put 4 more somewhere in the back, either where the back seats are now or somewhere in the trunk. So we got to plan out our battery box and mounts and stuff. The other thing is that these batteries are cooled by conduction from this surface. You can do so the same thing from the back. So I'm trying to design a cooling plate that has water channels running through it that'll sit between batteries and cool down each side of it. Some people have gone a little more extreme with these for race car use, but this is a street car, so I'm not going to worry about taking these apart and putting plates on each individual cell or anything like that. Well, here's the batteries technically in the car. Unfortunately, they're only really there because we're getting them off the floor for Corona cane prep. The rest of them are over here now on top of these legs for the plywood stand. We're gonna pick up all the other stuff as we can just to make sure if there's any flooding it doesn't become a problem. Not that we think it will, but it can't hurt. Didn't really drop the front end all that much, so at least the springs and everything hold up. And that's actually most of the weight that's going to be in there.